The next faction I want to look at is Athens. Now, Athens is a pretty interesting faction. The capital of Greece itself, Athens, is home to Athena, a Greek god. Athens doesn't get played a whole lot because their mercenaries are similar to that of Macedon, and their gameplay is identical to Syracuse's, although Syracuse is a DLC faction. Athens, however, has access to Thorax Hoplites, a Hoplite unit that is the spear version of the Thorax Swordsman. Although they cost the exact same, in most cases, Thorax Hoplites will beat Thorax Swordsmen with the use of Hoplite Phalanx because it gives your unit a +5 bonus versus infantry. This gives Hoplites 35 weapon damage, and they wield the elite Hoplite Spear, meaning that they already have 8 armor piercing and 22 base damage, allowing you to hit all units pretty hard. In most cases, Thorax Hoplites are your core. If you're going up against a faction that might not have the best armor but low health or low weapon damage, Thorax Swordsmen are an option. Just remember that the Greeks rely on their Hoplites more than their swords. Athens also has veteran Hoplites which come as mercenaries, although it is hard to make them cost effective. It is quite possible. Athens does suffer from a lack of melee choices even though they have mercenary Thracian warriors. They suffer in melee cav engagements because citizen cav are pretty bad. Also, don't use Hippeus Lancers too much for your cav contingent because they can get stuck on spears and lose very quickly. This is mainly because of their armor value rather than their statistics. Don't rely on pikemen, especially if you're going up against the successors, because the successors will just beat you. Also, be careful when you're going up against the boyai, as they can hit harder than you can while having the same hit chance. To summarize, spears are usually the way to go with this faction. I'd recommend trying them out if you don't like the Massalian roster. Try to be offensive with the Hoplites unless you are outnumbered. In my opinion, in certain circumstances, Athens can beat Tylis. Again, this is circumstantial. There are times where Tylis can even out the playing field, but in some cases they can lose. Tylis can lose to Athens, and Athens can also be Colchis, but Athens does lose to the boyai. Yeah. So what does your typical Athenian army look like? Usually people go for picked Hoplites as a general. This general is very sturdy, very good, and Hoplite Phalanx has good melee defense. Sometimes people will use Thorax Hoplites as a general so they can get more units. I don't. I usually go for picked Hoplites myself or Hippeus Lancers. Thorax Swordsmen are good, but like I said, it really depends on what you're going up against. In most cases, you'll want to go Thorax Hoplites because they don't have precursors but are still strong. And you could just bring Peltasts instead or Thorax Spears and still have a very strong line of infantry. Now, you can charge frontally with Hippeus Lancers and follow up with Thorax Hoplites, and that's still an effective argument. When it comes to Thorax Hoplites, these guys are useful on the flanks. They're not as good as Hoplites as they have 55 health and much less melee defense, but they still can be somewhat useful if you don't have enough money for Hoplites, which almost never happens. Pikemen, you can use pikemen if you'd like to. I don't, because this is a Greek city-state. Missile infantry wise, pretty solid. Thracian Peltasts are pretty good. Syracuse doesn't have them. Syracuse has Balearic Slingers but not Rhodian Slingers. And yeah. Shot cavalry wise, Hippeus Lancers are fairly sturdy. Melee cavalry wise, Citizen Cav are bad. I don't recommend using them for melee cav engagements. They're good for frontal charges because their armor does make them last a while, especially against slingers. You just have to be careful to precursors. And yeah, so most of the times you will rely on these two units. Sometimes you'll bring Thracian warriors, sometimes you'll bring veteran Hoplites. It's all up to you. You can even bring basic slingers, but I wouldn't recommend that if you're trying to go for a better sling. Like if you want to gain a missile advantage, Rhodian slingers are the way to go, and so are Cretan archers. Just don't overly invest in it, especially up against a nomadic faction, because they can use that to their advantage unless you're pike boxing. So yeah, just be smart and you'll get through with the Athenians very quickly. I'm going to take a minute 30 break and see you guys then.